In Greek mythology, love and tragedy always go hand in hand, creating captivating stories. Today, I will tell you 6 love stories filled with drama, no less than modern romance tales, yet deeply infused with the colors of mythology. 1. Pygmalion and Galatea. Pygmalion was a talented sculptor living on the island of Cyprus. A perfectionist by nature, he sought flawlessness in everything. However, when he looked at the women around him, he felt disappointed. In his eyes, they were not only lacking in beauty but also led frivolous and unworthy lives. Losing faith in love, Pygmalion decided to live a solitary life, devoting all his passion to his art. One day, Pygmalion began sculpting a statue out of ivory, shaping it into the image of his ideal woman. Every detail was crafted with such care that the statue appeared strikingly lifelike. She was stunningly beautiful, with perfect features, a gentle face, and a serene expression as if she were asleep. He named the statue Galatea. Over time, Pygmalion realized that he had fallen in love with the very statue he had created. He spent hours admiring Galatea, talking to her as if she were a real person. He dressed her in fine clothes, adorned her with precious jewelry, and even placed her on a luxurious bed fit for a queen. Pygmalion knew his love was hopeless, because Galatea was nothing more than an inanimate statue. However, his heart could not stop yearning. During a festival honoring Aphrodite, the goddess of love and beauty, Pygmalion went to the temple to pray. He offered sacrifices and earnestly pleaded, "Oh, goddess Aphrodite, please grant me a woman like my statue, perfect, gentle, and beautiful." Moved by Pygmalion's sincere love and devotion, Aphrodite decided to help him. After the prayer, Pygmalion returned home with an unexplainable feeling. As usual, he approached Galatea and gently touched her hand. But this time, something miraculous happened. Galatea's hand felt warm and soft, like living flesh. Pygmalion could hardly believe his eyes, but soon, Galatea began to move, opened her eyes, and smiled at him tenderly. The statue had truly come to life, thanks to Aphrodite's divine intervention. Galatea was not only physically perfect, but also possessed a kind and loving heart. Pygmalion and Galatea deeply loved each other and soon married with Aphrodite's blessing. Their love was not just a dream come true, but also a powerful message. True love can transcend all boundaries and turn the impossible into reality. According to some versions of the myth, Pygmalion and Galatea lived happily ever after and had a son named Paphos, who later founded the city of the same name on the island of Cyprus, considered a sacred place dedicated to Aphrodite. Now, isn't Pygmalion's love story the perfect example of the saying, "Can't find the perfect partner? Just make one yourself"? This guy is truly the definition of the ideal lover, loving with dedication, sincerity, and even devotion to a lifeless block of ivory. Let's be honest, if it weren't for Pygmalion, who else would have the patience to give flowers, fine clothes, jewelry, and endless conversations to a lover who never responds? Luckily, Aphrodite stepped in and saved the day, turning this ultimate one-sided love into an ancient romance tale. But this story also serves as a cautionary tale for perfectionists. If you're too picky, you might end up having to sculpt your own lover, and that's only if you're lucky enough to have divine intervention. And remember, in love, always keep believing in miracles. Who knows? One day, the thing you cherish, whether it's a statue, a strange hobby, or an impossible dream, might just come to life and return your love. Just don't take it too far and propose to your furniture like Pygmalion. 2. Echo and Narcissus. Echo was a beautiful nymph, but she was cursed by the goddess Hera due to an unfortunate fate. You see, Echo loved to talk, so much so that she would constantly chatter to distract Hera while Zeus snuck away. When Hera discovered this deception, she became furious and cursed Echo so that from then on, she could only repeat the words of others, never speaking her own thoughts. One day, Echo encountered Narcissus, a young man so breathtakingly handsome that every girl and nymph fell madly in love with him. However, Narcissus was arrogant and cared for no one but himself. The moment Echo saw Narcissus, she fell for him at first sight. But since she could not speak for herself, she had to wait for him to say something before she could respond by repeating his words. When Narcissus asked, "Who's there?" Echo could only repeat, "Who's there?" Frustrated and annoyed, Narcissus turned away, breaking Echo's heart. She wandered the forests in sorrow, gradually wasting away until only her voice remained, forever echoing through the mountains. Meanwhile, Nemesis, the goddess of retribution, saw Narcissus's arrogance and decided to punish him. One day, as Narcissus walked through the woods, he stumbled upon a clear pond and saw his own reflection. Instantly mesmerized by his own beauty, he failed to realize that the image was just an illusion. Falling deeply in love with his own reflection, Narcissus sat by the water's edge, unable to tear himself away, even as hunger, thirst, and exhaustion consumed him. Eventually, he withered and died by the pond, transforming into a delicate white flower with a golden center, the narcissus flower, daffodil, a symbol of self-obsession. If Echo represents the silent admirer, then Narcissus is undoubtedly the ultimate self-lover of ancient times. This guy didn't just reject everyone's love, he literally started dating himself in his watery mirror. The pinnacle of not needing anyone else's love because he was already enough for himself. This tale serves as a warning for those who take too many selfies or spend all day admiring themselves in the mirror. Loving yourself is great, but not to the point where you end up marrying your own reflection. As for Echo, her fate is truly tragic, but let's be honest, her curse feels like poetic justice. Talk too much? Fine, now you can't say anything at all. A gentle reminder for all the chatterboxes out there. In the end, this was a double unrequited love story. Echo loved Narcissus. Narcissus loved Narcissus. A perfect example of how everyone is lonely, but no one realizes it. 3. Ceyx and Alcyone. Ceyx and Alcyone were a deeply devoted couple. Ceyx, the king of Trachis, and Alcyone, the daughter of Aeolus, the god of the winds, shared a love so strong that anyone who saw them couldn't help but envy their happiness. One day, Ceyx decided to set sail on an important mission. Alcyone, knowing the dangers of the sea, pleaded with him to stay or at least take her along. However, Ceyx reassured his wife that everything would be fine and promised to return soon. But fate had other plans. While Ceyx was at sea, a violent storm arose. The raging waves swallowed his ship, and he was unable to escape his destiny. Just before he perished, Ceyx prayed to the gods that the news of his death would reach Alcyone in the gentlest way possible. Hera, moved by their love, sent Iris, the goddess of the rainbow, to the world of dreams. Iris instructed Hypnos, the god of sleep, to deliver a vision to Alcyone. In her dream, Alcyone saw Ceyx struggling in the storm, helpless against the mighty waves. She awoke in horror, realizing that her beloved husband was gone forever. Overcome with grief, Alcyone ran to the shore, searching for the place where Ceyx had drowned. The gods, deeply moved by her undying love, decided to transform them both into kingfishers, halcyon birds. From then on, the two lovers lived together on the water, soaring through the sky and building their nest side by side. It is believed that during a period of calm in the middle of winter, known as the halcyon days, the sea remains peaceful, allowing the kingfishers to lay their eggs. This is the gods' gift, forever honoring the love of Ceyx and Alcyone. Ceyx was basically the classic husband saying, "Don't worry, babe, I'll be back soon." Except, he never came back, leaving poor Alcyone to cry an ocean's worth of tears. Moral of the story? Husbands, listen to your wives, sometimes, it might just save your life. If Ceyx had listened to Alcyone and stayed home, this story would have had a very different, and much happier, ending. They could have grown old together in their castle, sipping wine instead of turning into birds. As for Alcyone, she is the ultimate symbol of true love. She loved so deeply that she rushed into the sea in search of her husband, completely unafraid of the danger. Even the gods probably thought, alright, this is too heartbreaking, let's just turn them into birds so they never have to cry again. Now, wherever one goes, the other follows, no more storms, no more tragic separations. And those halcyon days? Turns out, they exist so the gods can give this love-struck couple a few peaceful days without storms, a rare moment of calm amidst the chaos of life. A truly romantic story, but also a gentle reminder, love is beautiful when husbands actually listen to their wives. 4. Ariadne and Theseus. Ariadne was the daughter of King Minos of Crete, while Theseus was a heroic prince from Athens. Their story began when Athens was forced to send 7 young men and 7 young women as a tribute to the Minotaur, a half-man, half-bull monster imprisoned within the labyrinth on the island of Crete. Brave and determined to free Athens from this cruel fate, Theseus volunteered to be among the tributes, planning to defeat the Minotaur once and for all. When Theseus arrived in Crete, Ariadne instantly fell in love with the handsome hero. She decided to help him, but on one condition: after slaying the Minotaur, he must take her away from Crete and marry her. Ariadne gave Theseus a ball of thread, instructing him to tie one end at the entrance of the labyrinth and unravel it as he moved forward so he could find his way back after killing the Minotaur. Thanks to Ariadne's clever plan, Theseus navigated the maze, defeated the monster, and led the others to safety. The couple escaped together on a ship, sailing away from Crete. But when they reached the island of Naxos, Theseus did something completely unexpected. He abandoned Ariadne. According to some versions of the myth, Theseus left quietly while Ariadne was sleeping. When she woke up and realized she had been left behind, she was utterly devastated. But fate had a surprise for her. Dionysus, the god of wine, saw Ariadne on the island and fell in love with her at first sight. Not only did he cherish her, but he also took her to Mount Olympus and made her a goddess. Meanwhile, Theseus continued his journey back to Athens, but forgot to change his ship's black sails to white, a sign that he had survived and succeeded, just as he had promised his father, King Aegeus. Seeing the black sails, Aegeus believed his son was dead and threw himself into the sea, which was later named the Aegean Sea in his memory. The unexpected twist of the heroic love story. At first glance, Theseus seemed like the perfect romantic hero. But surprise! He turned out to be the ultimate ghoster of Greek mythology. He ditched Ariadne without a single message, not even a "sorry, babe, I'm busy saving Athens." And if that wasn't bad enough, he forgot to change his sails, leading to his own father's tragic death. Theseus might have been great at slaying monsters, but his post-mission planning was absolutely terrible. The gods must have been facepalming at this point. Fast hands, slow brain, what a combination. As for Ariadne, she's proof that sometimes, life has bigger plans for you. She thought she lost everything, but in the end, she won something far greater, a loving, divine husband who elevated her to goddess status. Talk about a legendary plot twist. Moral of the story, never abandon the person who just saved your life. Especially when she had a genius plan that literally kept you from getting lost forever. When one door closes, or one hero leaves, another, perhaps even a god, might come along. If you promise to change the sails, write it down so you don't forget. In the end, Theseus probably never expected that he'd be the most criticized character in this love story. And as for Ariadne? She got the happy ending she deserved, with a devoted, fun-loving god by her side. Cheers to that. 5. Peleus and Thetis. Peleus and Thetis are a famous couple in Greek mythology, not only because of their love story but also because their wedding became the spark for the Trojan War. Thetis was a beautiful and powerful sea goddess, the daughter of Nereus. She was admired by the gods on Mount Olympus for her beauty and abilities. Both Zeus and Poseidon sought to marry Thetis, but a prophecy from the seer Prometheus changed everything. The prophecy foretold that Thetis's son would be greater than his father. Fearing that her son might overthrow him, just as Zeus had overthrown Cronus, Zeus decided not to marry Thetis himself, but instead, he gave her to a mortal, King Peleus. Peleus, a mortal hero and the king of Phthia, was chosen to be Thetis's husband. However, Thetis, being a goddess, did not want to marry a mortal. She fled, changing into various forms, serpents, lions, water, and fire, to escape. Peleus, guided by the wise centaur Chiron, patiently pursued her, holding on until she agreed to marry him. Their wedding was a grand event on Mount Pelion, attended by all the gods of Olympus. It was one of the most lavish weddings in Greek mythology, with the gods bestowing wonderful gifts, including a suit of armor and a shield that would later be used by their son, Achilles. However, amidst the celebration, an incident occurred. Eris, the goddess of discord, was not invited to the wedding. In her anger, she threw a golden apple onto the banquet table inscribed with the words, "To the fairest." This sparked a dispute between the three goddesses, Hera, Athena, and Aphrodite, which ultimately led to the Trojan War. After the wedding, Thetis and Peleus had a son, Achilles, the greatest hero in the Trojan War. But because Thetis was a goddess and Peleus a mortal, their relationship was not meant to last. Thetis left Peleus after he prevented her from making Achilles immortal. A love story of perseverance. This story is the epitome of pursuing love to the very end. Peleus is undoubtedly the most patient hero in Greek mythology. His future wife transformed into all sorts of creatures, serpents, lions, water, fire, and yet, he held on tight, never letting go. If there were an award for determination, Peleus would surely be number one. As for Thetis, she resembles the independent goddess archetype, not wanting to marry a mortal. But eventually, she had to surrender to Peleus's perseverance and the will of the gods. And their wedding? It was indeed a memorable feast, grand in scale, but also sparking drama that would last centuries. If anyone ever asks, how does a wedding turn into a global disaster, the answer is simple: don't forget to invite the goddess of discord. Although their love did not last forever, they left behind a tremendous legacy, Achilles. This shows that even in love filled with challenges and disputes, the result can sometimes be something extraordinary. 6. Paris and Helen. Paris, the Prince of Troy, is famous not for his wisdom or strength, but because his love ignited a bloody war that lasted 10 years. The story begins at the wedding of Peleus and Thetis, as previously mentioned, where all the gods were invited, except for Eris, the goddess of discord. Furious, Eris threw a golden apple onto the banquet table, inscribed with the words, "For the fairest." This immediately sparked a dispute between three goddesses, Hera, Athena, and Aphrodite, as each believed she deserved the title. To settle the argument, they decided to let Paris, a prince living as a shepherd, judge the contest. Each goddess offered him an enticing reward. Hera promised power and a throne. Athena promised wisdom and victory in all battles. Aphrodite promised him the most beautiful woman in the world, Helen. Paris, for obvious reasons, chose Aphrodite. But there was one small problem: Helen was already married to King Menelaus of Sparta. With Aphrodite's help, Paris traveled to Sparta, met Helen, and the two fell in love. Paris then took Helen back to Troy, an act that sparked the Trojan War, as Menelaus, of course, would not let this slide. The war lasted 10 years, filled with countless tragedies. Paris eventually killed Achilles with an arrow, but he too met his end during the war. As for Helen, after many twists and turns, she was forgiven by Menelaus and returned to Sparta. A story of beauty, desire, and destruction. This story is solid proof that you should never be a beauty pageant judge, especially when three goddesses are competing. Paris chose Aphrodite, and instead of receiving a dreamlike love, he got a war that destroyed his entire homeland. As for Helen, she was truly so beautiful that she caused a war. A classic example of femme fatale. But to be fair, it wasn't entirely her fault. It was Paris who was reckless enough to think, stealing the wife of the king of Sparta? How hard could it be? Turns out, all of Troy paid the price for his decision. And Aphrodite? She was the ultimate matchmaker, but this ship didn't sail toward happiness, it sailed straight into a sea of war and destruction. As for Menelaus, he was the definition of a husband who doesn't let go easily. But to his credit, he waited 10 years to reclaim his wife. In the end, he forgave Helen, proving that his love for her was stronger than his anger. Lessons from the story: never agree to judge a beauty contest, especially if the reward is power or love. Stealing someone's wife is never a good idea, especially if her husband is a king. Sometimes, beauty can truly kill, without anyone lifting a weapon. In short, this story has all the drama: a wedding, jealousy, betrayal, war, and epic battles. If Netflix ever makes a movie about it, they'll definitely need to add the tags: action, romance, and a whole lot of tragedy. Conclusion. Love in Greek mythology is a vibrant tapestry, sometimes as gentle as a spring rain, other times as fierce as the summer sun. It can be as sweet as a large-sized bubble tea, but if you're not careful, it can also leave a bitter aftertaste. Love is a journey of discovery, learning patience, understanding, and, most importantly, finding the right person at the right time. These stories serve as a reminder for young hearts: don't rush into an emotional full combo, always check the warranty on your heart first. The most beautiful love is one where both people grow together, not just one person constantly gearing up to chase the other.